Welcome back and thank you for joining me. Oh, that was nice, real nice. Today's book is Karen McManus's Nothing More to Tell. Yeah, I forgot the title of the book. Excuse me. It's been like 2 weeks since I've read this book. But I liked this book. If you've kept up with my reviews, you know that I'm sort of on the fence with her. And this one, I was actually under the assumption that it was a spin-off of possibly Two Can Keep a Secret, which I absolutely hated, or maybe even the third in the One of Us is Lying series, which I think is getting a third book. By the point you see this video, by the time that I post this video, there could be that third book, but I keep thinking the next book I'm gonna read is the third book in that series, and it just isn't. But this one, and then the last one I read, which was You'll Be the Death of Me, I'm so glad that I've read them, and it has restored my faith in Karen McManus. But this one, the premise is the protagonist, whose name I can't remember. Oh my gosh. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a brain. My memory just is gone. I'm so tired and I have so much going on upstairs. I can't retain information. The book opens up with the main character, Brynn, 17-year-old, and she is returning to her hometown. A number of years earlier, her dad had been transferred. She'd gone and she was happy to go because there had been things that had happened in the recent past that she was ready to escape from. But now her dad is being transferred back and she is not happy about it. And to top it off, this life that she had planned out for herself in this new hometown has kind of gone to pot as well. She is a budding journalist. She is that one member of her family that can't seem to get her life together, which girl right here could feel that. Then she discovers her love of writing and of journalism. She makes the mistake of leaving the computer open, and somebody who does not like her very much ends up tampering with her article with a bunch of unsavory pictures. It gets printed and her name is mud. It goes viral. The school that she'd hoped to attend waitlists her. The internship that she had landed fires her, and now she is going back to a place she doesn't want to be. And why is that? Because she'd had a best friend named Trey, and right before she had moved, he had called her a name which caused her to endure a great deal of teasing, and she still feels anger and resentment towards him and his little group of friends because of it. Well, not really his little group of friends, because they weren't really friends, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The book opens with Brynn trying to land a new internship. She is at the office, and I really hate it when there's no information on a book on the internet. Like, you guys need to be on your game. I know I review older books, but you need to review the new ones so that when I forget the details, you've already got it from me on the internet. What I was trying to find was the name of the agency that she is trying to get an internship with, and they are sort of not a sensational news agency, but they are true crime. Also, it's not Trey, it is Trip. She is at their offices and she has caught their attention because nobody will give her a chance after this botched article. What she does is she writes something really short and really witty, and she attaches a link to the article, catches their attention. She gets an interview. And then what she does is she pitches an idea for a story, because before she had moved original, she'd be in the 8th grade, her teacher, Mr. Larkin, had been murdered. Nobody put any effort into discovering who the killer was. This lands her the internship, and now she's kind of undercover at her school. She reconnects with Trip, and then also within that are Charlotte and Shane. So those three had been the ones to discover Mr. Larkin's body. Brynn was supposed to be with them because they were doing work on a school project, but the day before is when Tripp had embarrassed her in front of the school, and so she had done anything she could to avoid him. So now that she's back, she is realizing that they are a trio. They are kind of the kings of the school, but she does have two friends that she has maintained relationships with, Mason and this other girl. And I gotta say, it probably wouldn't have bothered me if I'd been reading it, but I was listening to it. It felt superfluous to me that the female friend had a British accent. It served no purpose, and it felt a bit pretentious in the audiobook. Narrator did a great job. I'm not trying to say she can't do an English accent, but I didn't understand the need for it. And then in that, I thought those two could have been stronger. They could have played a bigger role, that we could have seen more of them, because Mason in particular, ends up being a key player. And their participation in the story is minimal at best. What Brynn does is she is trying to get information on Mr. Larkin. She's trying to figure out what people know, and she decides to join the committee for a memorial garden that is going to be set up in his name. Wouldn't you know, she gets paired up with Tripp. He is participating, which I must have missed this. He works at a bakery, and for some reason, the owner of the bakery would disown him if he didn't partake. He wants to get out of this town as much as anybody else, and if he participates in this, he can use it to earn a scholarship, which, I don't know. The scholarship was doomed from the beginning because the person who was going to hand it out was the principal or the headmaster of his school, and this guy doesn't like Tripp because there had been an issue with Tripp's dad. The wording of the scholarship was so ambiguous that it basically gave the headmaster free reign to give it to whoever he wanted because the requirements weren't necessarily specific. It kind of bothered me that this was something that had been so important to Tripp, yet it became a byline, and it was something that from the very beginning was evident he wasn't gonna get. I would have appreciated if something in that had been changed, where maybe it was a bit weightier. In any case, they are paired up as the head of the subcommittee, and I really did enjoy this book, but in retrospect, when I finished reading, or actually there's one point where the two get into an argument because he finds out that she's working for this crime show, and when she apologizes, of course, I'm oh my gosh, can't you understand? So I want them to reconcile, but then when they do, I was that was it? That was not an ordeal at all. This just goes back to, I liked Brynn. I loved her spunk. I loved her go-get-em attitude and her inability to back down. But I was for somebody who is so anxious about returning to this town and nervous and uncertain about being around Tripp again, you sure acted fine around him. You are a pretty good actress to be able to put your feelings aside in order to weasel information out of him and make him feel like everything is fine. So there were certain things that in retrospect gave me pause. But then we go and she arranges for them to meet up with the old groundskeeper under the guise of asking what flowers they should use. And they show up and are held at gunpoint. At this point is when we learn that Tripp has an alcohol issue, that he he's been holding on to something from the moment that he discovered Mr. Larkin's body. And the way that he deals with the pressures and the problems of life is to get lost in a bottle. A little backstory. Apparently, the old groundskeeper didn't know they were coming. She lied to Trip to get him out there, telling him that, oh yeah, of course, like he told me, come by. And then she admits, well, he never actually answered his phone and I left a message, so I don't even know if he got his message. So this is why they're held at gunpoint. And the guy seems to be a bit senile. A big important detail about him is that he uses a red tackle box as his bank. Then there's a party that Charlotte, for some reason, invites Brynn to. I couldn't tell you why. Like, I don't understand. If she's as stuck up and snobby as we're led to believe, why she would invite Brynn, who she doesn't know, because they didn't keep in touch while Brynn was gone. And when Brynn left, she kind of left in disgrace. So if Charlotte is who she's supposed to be, she should have been like, oh my gosh, why would I want that girl at my party? It does allow Brynn to track Trip down. And this is where she recognizes that he's got a drinking issue. Wait a minute. I think I'm a little ahead of myself. It's still connected to the groundskeeper, Mr. Solomon. They, at some point, return to his house for some reason, only to find him dead. It looks like it could have been an accident. Turns out it wasn't, but I'm not going to get into that spoiler just yet. This is what triggers Trip. No, maybe I had it right the first time. Whatever the case, things go along. Brynn is learning new details. She has discovered that nobody really knew Mr. Larkin. She doesn't really know much about him either, because she pitched the idea in her internship interview. And then that got pitched to higher ups, and that higher up was like, why does anybody care? He asked all these questions that she was unable to answer. And so now she's like, okay, so I gotta find answers. Her answers end up getting her fired and in a heap of trouble. Not fired, demoted. Moved from where she was to something a lot more banal. Or banal, excuse me. She does stumble across some information. Her supervisor had been given a tip about who Mr. Larkin possibly could have been before he came to their school. She steals this information and she follows that lead. And this takes her to his previous school. And then this was a moment that I don't necessarily know if I was necessary. But so she misleads the receptionist, the secretary who answers the phone, into thinking that she is just calling from Mr. Larkin's school. And my thought is they're going to be like, who's Mr. Larkin? It turns out, yes, that Mr. Larkin was from this school, but she's in the library with Charlotte. And so she can't actually say what she wants to say. And so it somehow gets to the point where this principal realizes that she's a student and he hangs up on her. Eventually, another teacher from that school does call and he's like, oh, well, the principal said you wanted to talk to me about something about like flowers. I thought the whole thing had a great buildup and then it sort of let me down. In any case, she's like, well, yeah, but actually I was just wondering, do you have any personal anecdotes? Do you know anything about him? And the guy was like, not really. He did tell me once at a party that he left for your school because he was trying to find his missing brother. This is where things get interesting, because this whole story, we have known that Shane is adopted. So now Brynn is thinking that Shane is the missing brother, and that in trying to find this brother, Mr. Larkin got killed. The missing brother was taken by his mother because the father, they're half brothers, so the father was very controlling, and when she had her first opportunity, the mother left. Mr. Larkin, whose name was not actually Mr. Larkin, he had changed it in his search for his missing brother. He wasn't impressive to his dad. And so at some point he was like, I'm gonna find my brother because it's gonna make my dad proud of me. Again, I thought this was a little weak because there had been a medallion, like there had been a broken necklace on Mr. Larkin's body. And then it's all tied back to the fact that the school had raised money. So right before Mr. Larkin died, the school had raised money, which had then gone missing. As Brynn is going through her investigation, she realizes that she had seen the folder that the money had been in, and that had been at Tripp's house. So she's approaching him, and it's at this point that I was just like, wow, I really can't believe, because he's drunk. I'm like, I can't believe that he is just opening up to her. I know he's inebriated, and things can come out or be said that you wouldn't normally say, but I thought it was a little too easy how they reconnected and formed a team and like got things done. But he is the one who had taken the medallion because he had thought it belonged to somebody else, because he thought that his dad had actually killed Mr. Larkin because he'd overheard an argument. A little bit of a spoiler. It turns out the dad couldn't have done it because the dad had actually been helping Brynn and her father change a flat tire on their car. This medallion leads them to a bar, and then that woman gives them all this backstory about Mr. Larkin and his family. Brynn tracks the dad down to a pawn shop. It bothered me just a little how she was bound and determined to find this man, but then as soon as she finds him, she realizes a bad idea and that she's really scared and unprepared, which is natural, which is why I paused. But I don't know. I thought like her personality did a little bit of a 180 there because she realized the error of her ways just like a little too suddenly. She comes in under a pretense, and then she puts her keys on the counter for one reason or another. He notices the medallion on the keys, and at this point, he goes from someone who's kind of sketchy to someone who you should be afraid of. So she jets, and she has a little sister named Ellie, who I quite liked. I thought she was a nice comic relief. I liked that she was a really good voice of reason. He kidnaps Ellie thinking that Ellie is Brynn, but and I could not figure out how in the world he could have found them. And it appears that he had written down her license plate number and then gotten someone to look it up for him. I think that's a little thin there. So she has had a fight with Tripp. They make up, and now they're like dating, which was when I was like, wait a minute. Like, as much as I wanted them to be together, I was like, okay, that was super easy. But she also confronts him about the missing money and all that stuff. And he reveals that he thinks his dad stole it because of that disagreement between the dad and the principal. Spoiler here, it was actually his mother. His mother had stolen it, and his father was trying to figure out how to get it back. And this is the point where Tripp found it. And then Mr. Larkin was found dead. And so what he did is he just shoved it in the closest locker, and it turned out to be Charlotte's locker. So things are kind of coming full circle here. The thing with the mom is, her name is Lisa Marie. And she, when he was like 8 or something, just decided, I don't want to be a parent anymore. And she wasn't a good parent. She would come to town every now and again. She was really selfish. She didn't really give Tripp much time. She lied to him all the time. And when the money goes missing, she had come to town for something. There's some kind of spring performance or something, and so she was like, oh yeah, I came for your performance. And while she was there, she saw the money and she stole it, blah, 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 blah. She is also the person who killed Mr. Solomon because she knew about the money in the tackle box. Now they're like, who killed Mr. Larkin. Somebody reveals that they heard Mr. Larkin arguing with Brynn's uncle, and now they're like, oh my gosh. So they're at the school dance, and they're like, oh my gosh, the uncle did it. Brynn, who had overheard, so it was Shane. Shane was telling Trip, because I guess when they were doing the school project, they weren't friends. Charlotte was obsessed with Shane. Shane was Trip's partner, but Trip knew that he was the one who's going to be doing all the work. And then Brynn was Charlotte's partner, but she was trying to avoid Trip, so she didn't show up. But Trip was annoyed with Shane, so he walked off. And then the next thing he knew, someone was screaming and there's a dead body. So he didn't actually see anything, but he lied. And this lie was believable enough that, and it went along with the other two's story enough that people were like, well, you guys obviously had nothing to do with it. Wrong place, wrong time. But now Shane is telling Trip about an argument, and it happened to be between Mr. Larkin and Brynn's uncle, because somebody had accidentally left a note in his cubby because he had been teaching at the school as well. This was supposed to be blackmail about Mr. Larkin. So then he approaches Mr. Larkin and they argue. So now Brynn runs off because she's trying to find her uncle to talk, because he was chaperoning the dance. As Trip tries to follow after her, this is when he sees somebody who's not supposed to be at the dance. And so we're like, okay, we don't really know who it is. He sees this person kidnap Ellie. He tells Brynn and the uncle there's a high-speed chase. There is an accident. It is Mr. Larkin's dad, who had come because he wanted information out of Brynn as to where his son was, but he mistook Ellie for Brynn, and so now he's going to come after them, only for the uncle to regain enough consciousness to ram him over and kill him. Then he's in the hospital, and now Brynn is kind of like in this catatonic state. I don't know. Things get all tied up, where we learn about Lisa Marie's involvement in everything. We learn that, the uncle is fine. Not fine. He's in the hospital. He ends up being fine. And so all these things are getting tied up, and I'm like, okay, so we know who killed Mr. Solomon. We know who stole the money. Trip is getting help for his problems. He and his dad are repairing their relationship because Trip all this time had been thinking that his dad could have killed Mr. Larkin. And then his dad wasn't there for him when he needed him because of all the stuff that had gone with Lisa Marie. So their stuff is getting repaired. And the book ends. But who killed Mr. Larkin? So if anything, that was my issue. We do have an epilogue, which reveals that Charlotte did it. Charlotte was the killer. She had overheard, as I told you, she was obsessed with Shane. Shane had this narcoleptic tendency to fall asleep places. So she had overheard Mr. Larkin tell Mason, who I told you was going to have a bigger role, that they were half brothers, and that he was going to bring him back to his dad. And this didn't really make sense to me. So I guess Mr. Larkin leaves. Mason is in such a state of shock that he's just sitting in the classroom and he's not said anything. So she doesn't know he's the person Mr. Larkin was talking to. But then Shane, who had been sleeping in the coat closet, walks out. And I'm like, so Mason never saw that? Shane never saw Mason? I thought there's a bit of a blank space there. So Charlotte is under the impression that Shane is the brother. She is the one who kills Mr. Larkin because she doesn't want him to take Shane away. It's kind of a stretch for me because she's a 13-year-old girl. He's a grown man. She killed him with a rock to the head. It was small enough that she could wield it, yet it was powerful enough that it would kill him. The whole wrap up, because then Brynn, she's giving us this wrap up. She has asked Charlotte to meet her because she is going to tell Charlotte what she knows, and Charlotte's like, you have no proof, and walks away. And Brynn has weak proof. So we're given the impression that maybe the story is not over, so I guess we'll see what happens. It's not that there were too many elements. I thought it was done well. And I liked that you really didn't know who was at fault. You didn't know where it was going. The writing was excellent. It kept me engaged. There were parts where I was like, I don't know about this, but not enough for me to be like, oh my gosh, this book is terrible. It's not two can keep a secret level. I disagreed with the way that she revealed who the killer was, because it was like an afterthought. I'm sure there's a ton I've left out, but apparently I don't remember this book as well as I thought I did. Another subplot is that somebody had been defacing Mr. Larkin's pictures, and it turns out that it was Mason, and Ellie is the one who figures it out. Was it necessary? I liked what it showed us of Ellie, because as I said, she was really fun. And so I liked her quirkiness and her ingenuity, but it was kind of so minor and unimportant. I felt like more could have come from it. There were a lot of elements, and maybe if the book were larger, we could have developed them to the point that it didn't feel like the who killed Mr. Larkin, which was the crux of the novel, was an afterthought. Like, we got so wrapped up in family drama that we lost sight of who killed Mr. Larkin. Anyways, that's the book. Like, subscribe, comment, do all of that stuff. Stay tuned, and I'll see you next week. Bye.